Okay, I'm gonna try to do a quick intro to synthesis and music theory basics at the same time. Quickly, we'll see how it goes. So start with the keyboard. Most synthesizers have a keyboard. If they don't, you can usually hook a keyboard up to them. So what is the keyboard? It looks like it has a lot of keys, but really there's only 12. And these repeat. So this is a C, this is a C, this is a C, this is a C. They're all the same note, just lower or higher pitch. So your basic scale has 7 notes, and the 8th note is the root note repeated. So you can count these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. If we play 2 of them at the same time, this is called a fifth because it's the first and the 5th note of the scale together. This is a 4th, a 3rd, 2nd, 6th, 7th, and an octave. You'll notice I've been ignoring the black keys. If we play a 3rd and drop it 1 semitone, the distance between one key is called the semitone. You get a minor 3rd, it's called. If you add the 5th, you have your basic minor chord. Major, minor. If you drop it again, or raise it, you get some other chords. If you add the 7th note of the scale, you get a 7th chord. Oops. So these are your basic chords. If we play the main scale again, and we start on the 6th note of the scale and play the same note, we get the minor scale. This is called the relative minor. So this is C major, and this is A minor. So onto the synth. The synth can be broken down into 3 main parts: the oscillators, which make the sound, the filter, which shapes the sound, and the amplifier, which affects the volume of the sound. So, starting with the oscillators, your basic waveforms, there are triangle, it's a clean waveform. There's sawtooth, which is buzzier, and then there's square, which has a more hollow sound. Most synthesizers will have these 3 waveforms. Some of them will have a sine wave, which is even more pure than the triangle. If you add vibrato or an LFO modulation of the pitch, sines come to life a little more. You can also add chorus to sine waves to give them some movement. We'll get to effects later. So starting with the sawtooth waveform, you can pitch it up and down. If you have 2 oscillators, you can do things with their tuning. If we detune them slightly with the fine tune, it adds some movement to the sound and creates a thicker sound. That's with detune, and that's without. So I was mentioning things like 5ths and 4ths earlier. Sometimes you want to tune your oscillators to a 5th. You can tune them to other intervals, but the fifth is the closest relation to the root note, so it'll give you the most harmonious sound, I suppose. Onto the filter, they have what's called a cutoff frequency, and they have resonance, which places a peak on the harmonic spectrum that you can move around with the cutoff frequency. You have to be a bit careful with resonance. If you go too high, you can get some sharp peaks. If you have your volume too loud, these can be pretty harsh. Right now we're using a low pass filter, which lets the low frequencies through while filtering out the highs. You can also use a high pass filter, which does the opposite. It lets the high frequencies through while filtering out the lows. There's also what's called a band pass filter, which lets a narrow range of frequencies through. So the filter is shaping the sound, but we can shape what is shaping the sound usually with what's called an envelope. There's generally one of these hardwired to the filter. If we adjust the envelope, we don't hear anything. This is because the envelope amount is down. You're going to need the envelope amount up to hear its impact on the filter. Attack will make it fade in. Decay can make it plucky. Sustain is basically a level. It's sort of like moving this. And release, you'll need the release up of the amplifier to hear the release on the filter. So if we go back to low pass and we add some release to the envelopes, you can hear it slowly fades out. So these are your basic tools for shaping a synthesizer sound. So for an example, we can load up 2 square waves and adjust the width of the square with an LFO. And then we can affect the filter with another LFO on random. If you turn down these LFOs, you get a more stable sound with less movement. A big part of synthesizers are effects. You're gonna wanna have a reverb. This can give your sound some space. A delay will add some repeats. So if you're affecting the sound with a delay, it'll change over time, and the repeats will change over time as well. Chorus, which I mentioned earlier, will give you a thicker sound. And these are basically the basics of synthesis.